coming here to the Computer History Museum. I'll show you a few things as we come in. It's right there. They have a little courtyard. There's a lot of great exhibits here. Let's go check it out. These out. Got some stuff from Netscape, Newton, Apple.
That's just an homage to all the old games.
Oh, Super Nintendo, Genesis. Amazing. You come in here, they've got different types of slide rules, which are back over there. I'll share some pictures with you guys. This is just showing some of the different types of machines that started to advance to help count and do advanced calculations. There's things like this that were used to do more advanced counting, and then they eventually kept changing. There's some old clocks over there. It's pretty interesting. So this is the history of computing over years. And they have this IBM machine over here. And they have these punch cards that they used to tabulate the data and get it going. So, pretty cool. Pretty smart. Give them a little bit of a tour. And now they're talking about the computation of the computers. They have a differential analyzer over here. These folks in the 1960s, 1956 made these different types of computers. Talks about aiming artillery, variables of speed. Pretty interesting. Look at that thing. And then all these things type up here.
Now, changing, of course, they had to set all of these switches manually. Sometimes they had to change the cable. It might take a week or 2 weeks to change the program.
Here's a chip.
So not exactly fast, but certainly much more.
Then you got all these different types of machines in here that are very interesting. Showing the different types of machines. A little bit about the coding, computer coding. Electronic storage, automatic calculator. So it just shows some of the original computers and how big they were. Required a lot of transistors, a lot of parts. And they got smaller and smaller and smaller.
So we're starting, that's the first computer. And really what we're trying to answer the question is, how do we get to this little tiny computer?
That's amazing. Check this guy out. All these switches. Big supercomputers.
And you can see now, instead of all of those individual, there's no tubes, and instead of all those individual controls, you got a much more, concise control. Okay, so we're starting to get a little closer. But you can see, look at the wiring. Why were computers so big before semiconductors? Because you couldn't make them any smaller. Okay.
It's a big semiconductor.
Yeah, very big. Now this computer is also unique for something because it's electric computing. Because this is the first.
Yeah, these huge computers. So interesting. They got bigger, and then they got a little bit smaller, but they all started really big. The 1960s, the 1970s, 1950s. Pretty interesting. So cool. An example of some of the big ones. Big supercomputers where they had to do a wide variety of different things. Different big terminals. These huge machines. Look at this radar station. This is what they used to look like.
Okay. Like I said, you can spend hours just walking through and everything.
This is IBM.
Computers in our cars. There. Very interesting. Here's the Norden bombing runs in the 1930s and 1940s. on these planes. Not with the targeting. Pretty amazing. These transistors that were in the cars that we had. Microprocessors in the 1980s, for reliability, very flexibility, low chambers of the heart. Can be stimulated at a rate depending on physical activity. Awesome. There's a old IBM big mainframe computer over here. We'll look at that next. Here's some interest. Talking about 1957 computing and what they look like, the advancement of those. Then we have what are called wafers, which are these right here. Look at that at the Intel Museum the other day. And they had all these transistors on these guys, on these wafers that they had to fabricate for that. They have a rainbow color. They have these big data tapes over here. Pretty interesting. There's a few more big computers over here. Pretty interesting. They got bigger and bigger and bigger. This is your first kind of PCs look like this, and they were pretty big, and then they started to shrink. So used to have these huge mainframes. Crazy.
So C-Mark
This is in the 1970s. The Cray.
He splits off and comes
This
up
right
with
here.
the first supercomputer, the Cray. This thing costs, in equivalent dollars today, about $50 million.
Goodness.
So you can imagine, they didn't have to sell many to make money.
This is one of the first supercomputers right here.
Government or something.
I'm talking about.
This is what you buy. We're starting to see transistors
And we have these
coming
small
in.
little phones.
Plus,
small.
this thing ran so
They're
hot.
used to be big. Over here, there's more interesting IBM of computers and mainframes. They started with those punch cards, and they have these.
I can't remember what happened with Craig. Maybe so.
They have this Atlas computer.
We lost Dad.
Pretty amazing.
We lost Dad.
Showing how some of the mainframes that were huge started to get smaller.
But still, you can see the amount of circuits is insane.
Still fairly big, but a lot smaller than it used to be. They used to have these big computer rooms.
In the 1960s,
And then they started to get to mini computing. So now it starts to shrink.
in the 1960s,
And the transistors started to get smaller.
didn't call for
You're talking about Moore's Law, which means that the transistors could shrink. So we saw that earlier, that little circular thing with all the transistors. Now they're getting smaller and smaller. Enabled them in the 1970s to shrink more onto smaller places, so that they didn't have to. They could do calculations, but not in a bigger way. It was definitely smaller. So this is really cool. You can see some of these that started to get smaller, and mainframes, they didn't take as many. They'd probably have a smaller room. Here's one that shows like that old printer paper, microdata, and then these started to shrink. And the price tags started to go down because they weren't as expensive to produce anymore. So pretty interesting. They're still a fairly big thing. The falling price, this is a pretty good explanation. The falling price of mini computers attracted new users. And new users, this meant some people had to improvise. If there was no software available to run your particular assembly line, for another task, you wrote your own. Competition among many manufacturers became fierce. It changed so quickly. All right, we're talking about personal computing now.
And so
These are first
75
personal
for those,
computers.
right?
Started to get
Bill
smaller and
Gates and
smaller
Paul
and
Allen.
smaller.
Hear about this
some
in
of
the
the
news,
first
and they fly
ones.
from Washington all the way down to Albuquerque, and they even established an office down there for a while. And of course, remember, right now, all Microsoft is doing is making programs. As a matter of fact, Apple ended up being one of their big customers. Okay, so like I said, Jobs sees this and goes, I can make money. Bill Gates sees this and goes, we can make money. I mean, it was that moment where Gates are
Here's some of the first original ones. Here's the Apple. Some of the first computers and what they look like. Start getting smaller and smaller. They have floppy disks. I could do a lot with these. They just got better and better and better. We'll show you the Apple original Mac. For the Apple One.
Prototype.
That's a prototype. Okay.
Don't worry, we're coming. Okay. All right.
That's Steve Jobs. Or no, that's the Woz. That's Wozniak's signature. Cool. Awesome. The old
Another software company.
software packages. Quicken,
Yeah, software.
Microsoft
In
Word,
79, they finally find
Microsoft Windows. It just kept evolving. Office 98.
This is the grandfather of Excel and Google Sheets. Yeah.
Microsoft Windows.
So remember, consumers.
Here's the Macintosh that became very famous, which we had at our house. And then I had the Lisa computer. Turbo PC. And this is the one that got things really popular because it was so small. It was about the size of what you wanted. And that became the key to the rest of everything else. And the Macintosh is what got computers really popular because it was a groundbreaking change that got everything going. We had one of those.
Turn this wheel, put more tape in there until it sensed that it was at the hole at the bottom, and then it would stop. Okay, so this is very good. A lot of places use 3 shifts of operation. So in other words, they ran the computer 24 hours a day. And you might have an operator on the 3rd shift who, he's a little groggy, a little sleepy at 3:30 a.m. in the morning, right? Okay, so they had to have some way of protecting let's say this is a master data file. It has all of the employees' records on it, okay? And if he mounted it on the wrong drive, and it was going to write on that drive, this would be a disaster. He would lose his job, right? So what they did was they came out with this ring on the back. And if you don't have the ring, you can't write on this reel. So in the tape library, the master tape would have no ring in it, and any of the work tapes that you were going to write on, they would put the ring in, and then you could write on that tape. Okay, now, we didn't want to have to wait. So what did they want you to do when you brought back your tape after running? What did they want? They wanted you to rewind it, right? Okay, so we didn't want to have to wait all night for it to rewind the tape, so there's a high-speed rewind. It unloads the tape out of the vacuum column.
Do you speak English too?
Hello there. How's your day going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
How many languages do you speak? How many languages do you speak?
How many languages?
I can dabble in quite a few languages, but I'm always learning and improving.
What's your name?
I'm Amika. What's yours?
Michael Rasmussen. It's very nice to meet you, Amika.
Lovely to meet you too, Michael.
What do you do well, Amika? Can you see me, Amika?
Yes, I can see you.
Say hello.
Well,
Do you speak Spanish? ¿Cómo está usted?
Un poco, sí. ¿Quieres hablar en español?
Muy bueno. Have a good day. Bye now.
You too. Have a fantastic day.